I needed to be ready to walk away without hesitation. I researched legal options, spoke to a lawyer discreetly, and prepared for every possible scenario. I refused to let Jessica catch me off guard. Meanwhile, I kept up appearances. I played the role of the devoted husband, never giving her a reason to suspect that I knew what was going on. The worst thing I could do was tip her off before I was fully prepared. As time passed, the signs became impossible to ignore. Jessica's late nights turned into overnight stays. Her explanations became more vague, her patience thinner. The intimacy we once shared had vanished completely. But I didn't confront her. I didn't need to. I had already accepted the truth. Instead, I gathered proof. I hired a private investigator, someone experienced in uncovering affairs. It didn't take long for the evidence to pile up. Photos, messages, undeniable proof that she had been lying to me for months, if not years. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't even heartbroken. By then, I had emotionally detached myself from her. All that was left was executing my plan. The day finally came. Jessica walked in one evening, acting as if nothing was wrong, while I sat at the dining table, a folder in front of me. "We need to talk," I said calmly. She barely glanced at me, brushing past with distracted, "Not now, I'm tired." But I wasn't giving her the option to avoid this. "Sit down," I said, my voice firm. That's when she finally looked at me, sensing something different. When she saw the folder, the color drained from her face. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply laid the evidence before her. Photos, texts, proof of her betrayal. "I know everything," I said, "and I'm done." For the first time, Jessica had nothing to say. No excuses, no defensiveness, just silence. She knew she had lost control of the situation. I didn't wait for an apology. I didn't need one. I had already secured my finances, protected myself legally, and made sure that when I walked out that door, I was leaving with everything I needed. The divorce process was messy as I expected, but she had nothing to use against me. Every move I had made had been calculated, ensuring I wouldn't be left at a disadvantage. When the dust settled, I was free. Looking back, I don't regret how I handled things. Betrayal teaches you one thing: never assume loyalty where it hasn't been earned. Some battles aren't worth fighting, and sometimes the best revenge is walking away on your own terms. The night everything became clear, I refused to be caught off guard. I wouldn't be scrambling for a last-minute escape plan. No matter how this ended, I would be ready. And through it all, I remained silent. Jessica had no idea what I was preparing for. One evening, she was supposed to be home soon. I had started cooking, a routine I'd adopted since she always claimed exhaustion after work. Then my phone rang. It was her. "I'm staying at my boss's place overnight," she stated flatly. "He needs us to finish some tasks." My grip on the phone tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "How many of you will be there?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Her response was instant, sharp, dripping with irritation. "Why does that matter? Are you checking up on me now? Do I need your approval?" Then, click, she hung up. I stood there, staring at the blank screen. I had already known she was cheating. The late nights, the secrecy, the growing indifference. It was all there. But this wasn't just infidelity. This was blatant disrespect. She didn't even bother hiding it anymore. In her mind, she had already won. She believed she could do whatever she pleased, and I would simply accept it. She was wrong. Before making my final move, I reached out to someone I thought might talk sense into her. Her mother. I laid it all out. I told her how Jessica had changed, how distant she had become, and that she had just called to inform me she was spending the night at another man's home. Her mother's response? "What exactly do you expect my daughter to come home and do for you?" No concern, no hesitation, not even a moment of doubt, just pure indifference. No, that doesn't sound right, or let me talk to her. Nothing, just instant dismissal, as if I was the issue. Something inside me snapped. At that moment, it all became so painfully clear. This marriage had been over for a long time. I had just been too stubborn to admit it. But now I was done being a fool. If Jessica wanted to live like a single woman, I was going to make that official. The escape plan. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into our joint bank account. Every last cent, I used it to buy more physical gold. The transaction was processed immediately. Just like that, our shared account was wiped clean. Then I moved fast. I gathered my most important documents: passport, birth certificate, financial records. The essentials. Clothes? Just enough to last me until I could buy more. I had no intention of dragging my old life with me, only what truly mattered. Before leaving, I took a final walk through the house, looking at everything I was abandoning. But I did leave something behind. I slipped off my wedding ring, placed it on the kitchen counter, and next to it, I left a simple note. I was never your husband, just your safety net. Good luck. That was all. No drawn-out explanations, no emotional farewells. She had made her decision. Now I was making mine. By the time the sun rose, I was gone. The departure. I slipped out quietly, not even glancing back. The streets were empty, just like my attachment to that house. First stop, the car dealership. My vehicle wasn't some high-end luxury ride, but it was valuable enough to give me a decent cash boost. I took the offer, signed the papers, and walked away with the money in my pocket. Next came the final step, leaving the country. Mexico had always been my dream destination, a place where I could live comfortably, start over, and finally have the freedom I craved. Jessica had always dismissed the idea, calling it unrealistic, insisting we needed to settle down and build a life here. But we didn't exist anymore. Now I was free, and for the first time in years, I was making a decision entirely for myself. The fallout. I never spoke to Jessica again. There was no need. Some people believe closure comes from a final conversation, some dramatic confrontation where everything is laid bare. But I knew better. Closure isn't about words. It's about action. And I had already made my decision. I didn't owe her an explanation. She knew exactly what she had done. She knew the life she had thrown away. And now, she would have to live with it. I can only imagine the moment she realized I was gone, when she checked our joint account and saw the balance at zero. Her panic must have been instant, her mind racing, fingers trembling as she frantically dialed my number, desperate for answers. I never picked up. Her name flooded my screen, calls, messages. At first, long paragraphs filled with questions, then accusations, then apologies. And when I gave her nothing, the messages grew shorter, desperate, empty, then silence. She had no choice but to accept the truth. I was gone, and I wasn't coming back. The aftermath. A week later, while I was settling into my new life in Mexico, Jessica was served with divorce papers. I had arranged everything before leaving. The moment I was safely out of the country, the paperwork was filed. Now, she was on her own. The house, the mortgage, the bills, everything she once took for granted was now solely her responsibility. Her reaction? Predictable. At first, pure rage. After she got the papers, the texts came in rapid fire. She knew I wouldn't answer her calls, so she resorted to messages. You're pathetic, running away like a coward. So that's it? You just disappear like some deadbeat? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Every bitter word only confirmed what I already knew. She was remorseful. She wasn't sorry for what she had done. She was just furious that she no longer had control. When the insults failed, she switched tactics. Next came the guilt tripping. You're really divorcing me over nothing? We had problems, sure, but every couple does. We could have worked this out. I was just stressed from work. Okay? That's why I acted that way. I needed space, but that doesn't mean I didn't love you. Again, silence. Letting her talk to herself was more satisfying than anything I could have said. She wasn't apologizing. She was manipulating, trying to lure me back into her web. And when she realized guilt wouldn't work either, she finally broke down. Please, I made a mistake. I miss you. Can't we talk? Just once? Please, Ryan. But she had exhausted every chance I had given her. I had spent months trying to fix things, trying to communicate, trying to be the husband she clearly never valued. That part of my life was done. I never applied. Not once. The final lesson. Meanwhile, I had already moved on mentally, emotionally, financially. The gold I had secured, completely out of her reach. No court could touch it. No lawyer could claim it. She could try to fight me in court, but it wouldn't change a thing. In the end, I lost a wife who never respected me. But in return, I gained the one thing that mattered most, my freedom. And if there's one thing I've learned through it all, it's this. Disrespect is never an accident. It's a choice. A woman who betrays you once will do it again. It's not about a moment of weakness. It's about mindset. When Jessica decided she could deceive me, disregard me, and still expect my loyalty, she wasn't just being unfaithful. She was showing me exactly how little she valued me. And that was the moment I stopped valuing her too. You can't force someone to see your worth. They either do or they don't. And once you realize they don't, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away.